Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be sharing my birth story in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. I am currently recording this episode in beautiful Florianopolis, Brazil. The baby is sleeping downstairs, so I thought it would be a really good time to share this. I want to start by thanking Angeline Mendoza for requesting this video. As a new creator on YouTube, and after taking almost a year off my business and being in front of the camera, it just felt so good to know that my content is being seen. Like, it really gave me the confidence to continue recording and the inspiration to continue sharing this with all of you guys. For those of you new here, hi, my name is Danielle. I am an online business coach and content creator. I've been traveling full-time for the past almost 9 years now, 7 of those with my husband, and last year as a small family. I had my son in Brazil, and it was a very personal decision for all of us. And so today I'm going to share exactly what that was like door to door. So a bit of background on our circumstances. My husband is British and I am Chinese American. I was born in China but grew up in America and became an American citizen when I was a teenager. China doesn't allow dual citizenship, so I had to renounce my Chinese passport, so I am just fully American now. We have been traveling for so long and we don't have a base. And so when we got pregnant, we were like, where in the world should we have this baby? We haven't lived in the UK or America in years. Like, we'll go back every year to visit family, but we don't have a base. Rags, my husband, and I both surf, so most of the places we travel to are surf destinations. And after reading a book by Nomad Capitalist, I learned about the concept of jus soli, which are countries with this law who grant citizenship to the child if the child was born on the country's soil. So most of North and South America have this. So America, Canada, like Costa Rica, we looked at Mexico. And because we had spent the pandemic in Florianopolis, Brazil, we really aligned with going back to Brazil to give birth. We are currently applying for Rags's green card in America, and it's been over 2 years. It's just such a longer process. And so I would have only had a limited time in England after the birth, and he would have only been able to stay in America for 90 days on a tourist visa. And so, because we love Brazil, we love the culture, we love the food, we spent many, many months there in the past, we thought, okay, let's look into Brazil. I wanted an elective C-section, which worked out perfectly because in the UK and US, you need just cause to be able to perform an elective C-section for your first baby. And yes, Brazil has one of the highest rates of C-sections in the world, but a lot of it is cultural. Like, people want to have C-sections, and because you can choose to have one, of course, rates are going to be higher. So personally, I wanted one because I just knew that I didn't want to go into labor. I wanted to be able to choose exactly when I went into surgery. I had a teacher growing up who said she had 2 C-sections, and it was just great because it was no drama. And as soon as she said that, like, I think I was in 6th grade, I just knew that that's what I wanted when I had kids. So for me, it worked out perfectly. Also, the fact that because the country has so many C-sections, I was like, well, the doctors must be trained on it. And if it's not an emergency C-section, it will probably go smoother if the surgery is planned. Anyway, that's what I wanted, and Brazil was just so perfect. We looked into Florianopolis, but Florianopolis actually has a really, really high rate of home births versus hospital births. So that was like the opposite end of the spectrum. And I knew that I wanted to give birth in a hospital and I wanted really good doctors. So we started looking at Sao Paulo. We had friends in São José dos Campos, and we had never been to Rio de Janeiro before, but after just looking at all of the options, we were like, we're beach people. It's a big city. They have great hospitals. Even though we've never been there before, let's just bite the bullet and book our flights to Rio before even visiting. I just knew that that's the ideal. Like, we were designing our lives and my 3rd trimester around what aligned with us. So even though it was a really big risk, I'm just so glad we listened to our guts and we did it and it was amazing. When I was 28 weeks, we booked a one-way ticket to Rio. And keep in mind that like for the past 7 years, we always book one-way tickets. We don't have a base. So it was very, very normal for us and we didn't really feel nervous about that at all. We booked a one-way ticket to Rio and we had booked an Airbnb for the month of December. The baby was due like beginning of March. And so we booked an Airbnb for 1 month just to start. That's usually what we do because we don't want to commit to longer periods of time before learning our way around, before knowing if we like the area or the apartment. And so as soon as we arrived in Rio, we loved the vibes, we loved the people, made friends, and we started looking at hospitals, started looking at birth teams, doctors, doulas, and it was a lot easier than expected because here in Brazil, you communicate to everyone using WhatsApp. It's not like in America where you need to like call and then you talk to a secretary and then they call you back and they have to look at insurance, blah, blah, blah. Here, here all the communication is through WhatsApp, and we knew we wanted to pay private for everything, so we got the best service and everything just went so smoothly. They do have a public healthcare system here called SUS, and it is completely free, like even for tourists. Of course, taxpayers pay into this, and that's exactly why we didn't want to use the free system. But as an American, even the fact that Brazil has free healthcare for all is mind-blowing to me. We have driven past like oncology cancer clinics here. We have had friends go through major surgeries and it's all free. Like why not America, right? Anyway, so when I landed, we met with 3 doctors and I chose one that I loved the most. I really felt a connection with her. I really liked how efficient their whole team was and I felt comfortable. And I think that's what's really important. As it was my first baby, I wanted to feel comfortable. And so we arrived in December. January, we were in another month-long Airbnb, and through the month of January, I had bi-weekly appointments, I had scans, and then in February, I believe it was the end of January, beginning of February, during that appointment, I scheduled the C-section for February 25th, 2025. That was when I was 39 weeks. And it was so crazy because after I chose the date of the birth, the doctor was like, well, what time? I was like, what? I can choose a time? Like, do I need to look at birth charts or something? I just felt like I had so much power over this. And I just wasn't expecting to choose the time, but I ended up choosing 8 a.m. because it is a really big surgery and I had to fast for 8 hours beforehand. And so I didn't want like an afternoon surgery because it meant that I couldn't eat all day. So I was like, let's just do 8 a.m. Then I can sleep at night. We'll just wake up early and then we'll go straight in for the surgery. After deciding on the day, I also found a birth photographer, which is something they do here in Brazil. And I found it fascinating. I knew from day one I wanted one. They document the whole birth, like whether you have a C-section or whether you have a natural birth or like a home birth, they are there taking pictures of the most intimate moments. And it is one of the best decisions I have made because I look back on these photos, I have the picture of the moment he was born, and it's just so mind-blowing and magical. Found the photographer, and after that, it was just hoping that I didn't go into labor before 39 weeks, which was a possibility, and it happens all the time. But I truly believe that if you constantly are preparing for Plan B, that's what's going to manifest. So I just refused to even entertain that thought. I was like, I'm gonna go in for my surgery at 39 weeks. I even wrote out like an Instagram caption of my perfect birth going according to plan, and that's exactly how it played out. A smooth, safe delivery. A few days before the scheduled C-section, my parents flew down from New York to visit and they stayed with us. We went to the beach the day before. I was like jumping in the ocean and I felt amazing. Like I was huge, but it was the beach lifestyle and I just felt so at home. I felt so welcomed and I was surrounded by people I love. and I was gonna have a baby, which was so surreal. I've been looking back on photos from this day and I'll share some. It's just such a crazy time of your life. Like your whole life as you know it completely changes in an instant. So looking back on these, I was like, it honestly couldn't have gone any better. We had coconuts, and then the day before I went to sleep. I was kind of nervous, but I was able to fall asleep, not knowing what to expect. I didn't grow up around kids, so this whole thing, it was a completely new experience, which is why I do think that if you did grow up around kids or if you do have experience with babies, like you are already way farther ahead than I was. You have nothing to worry about. Morning of, I woke up around 5 a.m., did my hair and makeup because the photographer takes pictures of you before your surgery. So I did my hair and makeup and we left our house around 5:30 a.m. We were staying at an Airbnb around 15 minutes away from the hospital. And this Airbnb, we actually signed for 3 months. So we drove to the hospital, packed everything in one bag, and we were staying at the hospital for 2 nights, which is standard procedure after a C-section. And there at the hospital, we checked in, met with our photographer and doula, and I was just so excited. I was getting pictures taken. Then all of a sudden, I changed into my hospital like gown, and so did Rags. And they wheeled me into like this first room. We even took pictures there with like signs of I forget what it said, like I'm about to become a mother or whatever it is. Like very, very good vibes. Everyone was very welcoming. They were excited. I was excited. And then they wheeled me into the operating room. I still remember it was just like the most serene music. There were lights, stars in the ceiling. I had met the whole birth team beforehand, so I felt very comfortable. My husband was by my side. My doula was there. I felt so calm. And then the anesthesiologist did his job and I didn't feel anything from the waist down. Of course, I was like watching my husband's face and he was just making like crazy faces because he watched the entire surgery, like them cutting me open. He's not queasy at all, but I was just like, what is happening? What is happening? Tried to narrate, but it was just so much going on. And then after 41 minutes, baby Leven was born. I heard his cry for the first time and I just started bawling because I think it just hits you that like, holy shit, I am a mother now. We brought in a human into this world. How? Like, I don't even know. And all of a sudden I was a mother and I had no idea what I was doing. They placed him on my chest, started breastfeeding, and it was just crazy. I don't think it's fully possible to describe the feeling if you've never gone through it yourself, but mind-blowing experience. While all of this was happening and when they were stitching me up, it's also super common in Brazil to have a placenta painting. So my amazing physiotherapist, she was busy creating the placenta painting for us. Like they take your placenta and you choose the color, so we chose blue, and they kind of like paint over it and make like a print and then draw over it because it symbolizes the tree of life. And I still have that painting to this day. It's just so special. Our photographer was photographing everything, and yeah, it was the most eventful few hours of my life. So after they stitched me up, they wheeled me back into my hospital room where my parents were waiting for us, and they met the baby. Photos, like so much going on. I was on morphine, so I didn't feel anything, and I was also on painkillers for like a few weeks after. So I really didn't feel any pain at all, and I was a mother. Win-win in my books. The first day, they belly taped me. So they used muscle tape and taped my entire stomach. Apparently this helps your muscles with going back to where they were before the pregnancy and helping them like tighten up, which I really think helped. The tape stayed on for a few weeks. I think it was like 2 weeks. And I felt great. Like I didn't feel any pain. The first night at the hospital, I was able to shower. And I was breastfeeding the whole time. What was annoying was that in the hospital room, nurses came in like every few hours. It was impossible to sleep. And so newly, postpartum, I was like, I just want to sleep when the baby's sleeping. But other than that, the hospital room was beautiful. I had a beautiful view, and they brought us food 3 times a day. It was very comfortable. My husband stayed with me the whole time. A lot of what happened the next 2 days, I will say, I like don't remember much. I'll look through my camera roll and like include a few photos. But I just remember, the one thing I do remember is like we love surfing, and my husband is like an avid surfer, and we were practicing tummy time with like our poor newborn who was a few hours out of the womb, and I have videos of him like we were practicing surf training in the hospital room. Also, in the lobby of the hospital, you can buy balloons. Like people love decorating and like celebrating here. And so my parents had bought balloons. We had the placenta painting, and it just felt very welcoming and like not a typical hospital. The other really surreal feeling is like going home with the baby. So after 2 nights, we were discharged, and I remember putting him in the stroller, and I was like, they just trust us to go home with this creature that we have no idea how to raise. And you're like learning to live your life with this new human. Another kind of feeling that I don't know how to describe, and I don't think unless you go through it yourself, you truly don't grasp the severity of what that means. But yeah, that was our birth story in Rio. So we stayed in Rio for a few more months, and then we went back to Florianopolis in May of last year. We did a bunch of traveling. We went back to the States, to England, and then to Switzerland. Came back to Florida, but Rags and I actually just applied for our citizenship because after the baby was born, we automatically got permanent residency, and now we are applying for Brazilian citizenship. We passed our Portuguese proficiency test, and it's just been honestly such a crazy year, but one of the best years, if not the best year of my life. Like we just love, love, love our baby who's a toddler now. We love him so much, and there is no better feeling than being a mother for me. Some common questions that I've gotten. Yes, we paid private for everything, and I highly recommend you do so. You really get the best care, the best facilities, the best experience. Also, the cost paying private in Brazil versus going through the NHS in the UK, because I am not a British national, I would have to pay out of pocket. And the costs across all three were like very similar. So even the US after insurance, because insurance is so expensive. And so we just decided that we would pay out of pocket in Brazil. If we were to have another baby, which we are planning for, they just opened an amazing maternity ward in Florianopolis. So we are looking into that now. It wasn't available to us last year, and I knew that I wanted to have a baby in a hospital, and they just didn't have like the best hospital facilities compared to Rio, but now it's comparable. So we will look into that. The other thing I do want to note, because I've talked to many people about this and I just want to address it somewhere, is that the difference between the Brazil system and America, for instance, is that in Brazil, when a baby is born, they automatically get citizenship, and the parents automatically get permanent residency because the baby is sponsoring the parents. And then the parents have like a really easy way to get citizenship. So it's very easy to do things legally here because I entered on a legal tourist visa. It's very different in America. Like even being married, legally married to my husband, it's taken us years, and he is British, to get his green card to legally stay in America for more than 90 days. The thing with America is, yes, they have jus soli. So if you have a baby on American soil, the baby is a citizen, but the parents don't get automatic residency. The baby can only sponsor parents or relatives when they turn 21. So a lot of people who enter, they either like, enter legally on a tourist visa or whatever, they have a baby, but then they either have to return to their countries, which a lot of them, don't want to. And it just makes it so difficult because you're like, well, my baby is legal, and they're just hoping that when they're 21, they can apply legally through the system. But other than that, it's like, I'm not going to go into it in this video, but I do want to clarify that there is a difference between the legal systems, obviously, between Brazil and America. And when you're talking about this, I think it's very important to know what actually are the laws. So I will say that this has been the best decision for our family and what works for us. We are very spontaneous. We both have online businesses, so we're very grateful and blessed to be able to do this. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer it in the comments. Hope this helps. Don't forget to subscribe to follow along our adventures around the world. And also, if you want tips on how to build and grow your online business so you can live a location independent life. I'll see you in the next episode. Have an amazing week, my loves.